So we got a WGEN9500 here. Customer brought it in and said that it wouldn't start. I'm going to show you everything you need to know about getting this thing back up and ready and how to figure out what's going on with it and why it won't start. So this thing has 12,500 peak watts. Pretty good unit. I mean, they're not bad for what they are. I've seen some troubles with the start switch and the electricals on them a little bit, but first thing I like to do is go ahead and check the oil. So these things do have a low oil shutdown on them. Oil's at a good level, looks relatively clean, no problem there. Check and make sure the fuel's in good shape also, if you're not sure the condition of it. I smelled this one when it first came in. This is for a flooring company. They do concrete and like epoxy floors and stripping and stuff like that. So besides the little pieces of that stuff down in the tank, which we see that all the time on these when they bring them in, plus all over the tank. Besides that, it smells good. Quality of the fuel seems good. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and turn the unit on. Now, the battery light will come on when you turn that on. If your battery is dead on these, your solenoid on the bottom of the carburetor will not get any voltage and the thing won't get any fuel to begin with. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but we'll go ahead and try to fire it up. Nothing. Not getting anything out of the unit. I've tried it a few different times here. Can't get anything whatsoever. So first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take off the air cleaner cover. And we're going to go ahead and just give it a shot of carburetor cleaner. Now what that's going to tell us, you know, a lot of times these are carburetor issues on these. What that's going to tell us is if we bypass the carburetor or give it an auxiliary fuel source, if this thing will start. That's one dirty bird there. I went ahead and took a moment to go ahead and blow this all out real well. You don't want any of this sucked up in the engine if you're trying to test anything if it starts. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to spray in this top left corner down past the choke. Spray just a little bit of carburetor cleaner. We like to use gum out. It's not as nauseous as some of the other ones. And let's go ahead and turn that battery switch on. See if we can't get this thing to fire up. Okay, still nothing. Nothing there whatsoever. I can smell the fuel now, or smell the carb cleaner now. So we know that we're getting fuel, but it's still not firing. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and check the spark. Now we've got a spark checker, nice and easy to just clip on the side. Now with the spark plug, we're going to clip this here, test it that way. If you don't have a spark checker, you'll just go ahead and pull the spark plug out, and you touch it against the side of the block there while it's turning over and see what kind of spark you're getting out of it. So let's hit this again. Okay, so we're getting nothing. Absolutely nothing on the spark checker. So what that's telling us is we're getting no spark whatsoever. The place I like to go from here is I like to go ahead and unplug the low oil shutdown on this side. We've got a low oil shutdown that if you're running it with too little of oil in it, it will shut down, so that's great. That's on the side of the engine here. Get you a little closer view. On the side of the engine, it's this wire coming straight out. So the wire coming out of here, you want to get that unplugged. It actually comes up and connects to this wire here. So, let's show you on the other side, a little better view. So it comes right up top here and attaches to this loom. So we're going to unplug that. So that's bypassing at this point. With that unplugged, that's bypassing the low oil shutdown. So if the low oil shutdown's the issue at this point, this thing should fire right up. A lot of times when it's a low oil shutdown, I still get a tiny bit of flashing out of my meter. So I'm thinking that's probably not what the issue is at this point. I got nothing still. No spark whatsoever on the unit. Now, from here, we can do one of two things. We can go ahead and pull the plug out. Sometimes it's a bad plug. It's not very common, but it is the case at points. If we pull the plug and it's not a bad plug, what you can do is you can isolate the coil, which sits under here. You can isolate it completely from the unit. Now, to do that, there's one wire that comes up through the back here. That's this wire. That's the wire that goes directly to the coil. Now, this wire comes over and it connects right down in that loom. So it's just a standard connection just like the others. It actually connects right here. It's just a regular old push connection just like this. It's not this wire, but it's one up in that loom. I'm not going to pull it apart right this second, but if we check the spark plug and the spark plug's good, we're going to unplug that and go ahead and isolate the coil. So at that point, you know that the only thing that can possibly shut the coil down is the coil itself. It's a coil spinning over a magnet, or a magnet spinning over the coil that makes it spark. If it's not able to ground out because you've got it everything disconnected and you're still not getting spark, you know your coil's bad. So if you get spark at that point, you know it's something else with the unit. You know it's either the electrical or some other thing shutting it down. So a lot of times the board on these, any of the electricals can go bad on these for sure. The start-stop switch. Again, I've seen quite a few issues with those, but at this point, we're going to go ahead and pull the plug and see what the spark plug looks like. Again, almost never the issue. Might have a bad coil in this case, but we're going to check it completely. I was thinking we were probably going to be dealing with a carburetor issue this morning, so I had everything all set up for it, but, well, it's a torch spark plug. The only good place for a torch spark plug is in the trash, in my opinion. Now, I'll get a backdrop, but this thing's extremely, extremely dirty. It's got some carbon built up around the tip quite a bit. What we're going to do is we're going to throw a new plug in it real quick. We use an MGK, it's a BPR 5ES. It's what we use for these replacements. It's a quality plug as opposed to those torch. You always want to match them up, make sure they're the same before putting them back in, which these are. Now I'll just test it against the side of the block here real quick to show you what happens. If you end up disconnecting that coil as I was talking about earlier and go to start it, if the unit starts, you're not going to be able to shut it off. So you're going to have to either pull the plug wire or plug back in the coil into that other wire that was shutting it down in order to shut the unit off. So don't get stuck with it just running and running. But if we put this just against the block anywhere and hold it while we try to start it, we should be getting a good spark. On. I'm not seeing a ton there on the tip. Goes to show you should turn it off before you get hit by it, but that wasn't too bad. It almost felt like it was real weak to me. I didn't hit the off switch, so once it tried to start that second time on me like they do, and got me. But it felt real weak. It looked kind of weak too, but normally I'll see that on the actual tester if there's an issue with the plug. So we're going to go ahead and put this in. We were getting some spark, and I didn't have the tip real close to it. I was kind of trying to show you as far as the video goes that you can see the spark there. Now again, if you're touching it while it's going, you're going to get shocked. It's not going to kill you, but unless you got a pacemaker or something, then it might. Be careful when you're dealing with anything like this. Try this thing again and Seems to be running pretty good besides the massive amount of smoke in this place. I mean, the place was just completely smoked out at this point. Not a good thing at, you know, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. Open this up, let this air out a little bit, but in this case it was just a bad spark plug. That or it was tipped or something and had a bunch of stuff in there. Spark plug was just testing bad though, so I'm not sure why it's smoking so bad. Again, these guys get all kinds of stuff engulfed down in them as they're running them with the type of work they do and everything like that, but that should get you all taken care of as far as getting it back running if you're not getting any spark. If the unit does start on carburetor cleaner, you know you're getting spark, you know you're getting compression at that point. If that's the case, you want to go ahead and clean that carburetor out, or make sure your solenoid on the bottom of the carburetor is functioning properly. If your solenoid's not functioning properly, your unit's never going to get any fuel to it. So if you need a video on cleaning that, we've got a nice one on the Champion dual fuel unit. It's pretty much the same design. The choke's a little bit different and stuff, but same cleaning process, same basic system. So a lot of these engines are pretty much the same, you know, all made by different people most of the time, but same design, same pretty much everything. I'm gonna get this opened up before I before I get a bunch of inhaled smoke. But thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.